we can start with the first section, the essentials about the CODESYS visualization. First of all, I want to explain some common terms that are used by our visualization systems, and the first term are the display variants that we support. The first and probably the most powerful and important visualization or display variant is the CODESYS WebVisu, which is effectively displaying the visualization content from the PLC in a web browser window. And the web browser is flexible, so we can display both from smartphones up to desktop computers. And accordingly, the best matching visualization can be presented to the final customers. Then we have the CODESYS target visualization, which is intended to be displayed by the screen of the PLC itself. So when you have a panel PLC, then the panel display can directly display the visualization without the little bit of overhead that the web browser uses for the web visualization. Or when you're using a soft PLC on a desktop computer, then this computer can, of course, display the target visu too. And the third display variant that I want to mention is the CODESYS HMI, which is intended to collect data from several PLCs and present this data in a aggregated way to the customer using the display variants we've seen before. So the CODESYS HMI can work together both with the WebVisu and the target visu. So these are the variants the visualization can be displayed. And in the next step, we have a look at some basic parts of the CODESYS visualization. The first and probably the most important part is the visualization itself, which is either an entire screen displayed to the customer or organization unit that can build up reusable visualization templates to structure the visualization application. The visualization itself can be designed using a big library of basic visualization elements. We'll have a look at them soon. And of course, it's the responsibility of the visualization to link the visualization elements to variables of the PLC. And here we can have a first look at a CODESYS project where I can show these in practice. So it's the wrong project. We use this one. So here I have prepared a simple demonstration application where we can explain these terms. And the term, the visualization, you see these objects here are the visualizations in a CODESYS project. And I can open my main screen here and display the according visualization in the editing mode. You see it's a canvas where you can draw the visualization to. The elements are configured using this property control on the right-hand side, where you can configure the position and the linking to variables, and new elements can be inserted from a big set of elements from this toolbox control. And as I mentioned, we have two kinds of visualizations, entire screens, like we see it here. We have a header and we have a content area, and it's possible to do reusable templates that can be embedded into the visualization itself. And this is what we can see here. We have the same visualization object, but here it's just a simple example of a simple tank visualization, which can then be used several times in the visualization. We will see more of this soon. So when we go back to our presentation, we can have a look at the next parts, the next basic parts of our visualization, which are, of course, the visualization elements. Here we have some basic elements. You have already seen them in the short look at CODESYS before. we have some basic elements like a very flexible rectangle element, which can also display circles and rounded rectangles. Then we have a polygon, which can be used for drawing simple lines or flexible polygon as curve values. Then, of course, we have a big set of common controls that can be simply used to control the application. So, of course, there is a simple checkbox control to modify Boolean values. Then we have a combo box to select values from a fixed set of numbers or enumerations. Then, of course, there is a table element which can display arrays of data and, of course, modify the data too. Then we have a set of structuring elements which can be used to build up an entire visualization from smaller parts. So there is the frame element, which just is a reference to one or more other visualizations that can be embedded into the visualization area. Then we have a tab control element, and there are many more, like the alarms elements for displaying alarms, a trend control to display historically recorded values. And we can have a quick look at the toolbox again. So when I have a visualization open, then we can look at the toolbox. So here the elements are organized in categories. Then we have the basic elements here. Then we have some common controls. We will see them later for the web visualization, and the common controls section for these typically used controls like the checkbox, a radio button, selection, a simple button, a progress bar, and the table, for example. Then we have the alarms elements. We have some measurement controls to display analog values. We have a set of switches and lamps that can be used. And then we have some more special controls like the trend recording, a web browser embedded into the visualization, and so on. So there is a big choice of elements for building up the visualization. After looking at these visualization elements, we can go on to the next important object for the configuration of the visualization. This is the visualization manager, we call it, which is a collection of common settings that affect the entire application. So all visualization screens are affected by these settings. There is the selection of the visualization styles. It's possible to select the preferred dialogues. The user management of the visualization is configured here, and it's possible to configure global hotkey actions. And we can have a look at this, of course, too, in a project. So whenever an application uses the CODESYS visualization, then there will be the visualization manager object we see here, and we can have a look at it by simply opening it. Then we have on this page some general settings. Then we have the dialog settings, so it's possible to implement your own numpad, keypad dialogues, and then you can choose here which implementation of this numpad should be used for your visualization. You can configure some global values affecting the dialogues. Then it's possible to configure some actions that react on hotkey presses by the operator and which affect all the visualizations. This is done on this default hotkeys page. Then we have an overview over all visualizations and the user management, which allows to configure access rights on the visualization elements so that different kinds of operators can work with the visualization. So that's the visualization manager object. And the next object we can have a look at is the next term within the visualization is the visualization style, which is a selection of common look and feel property values. So commonly used fonts, colors, and images can be put together into a visualization style and then be used easily in the in the project and the visualization elements. CODESYS itself provides a basic set of visualization styles that can be used. And of course, these visualization styles can be adjusted by customers. So it's possible to extend existing styles. It's possible to create new ones, of course. And all this can be done using an editing tool, which is provided by CODESYS and which can be started from the visualization manager. We can have a look at these styles also from the visualization manager object. So you have already seen it before. There is this style settings box we can see here, and there we have a preview of the elements and the fonts in this selected visualization style. And here we have a selection of all visualization styles that are installed in the system. And there we can have a look at the previews of the basic set of styles we provide. So this is a basic style, we call it, with a more or less metallic option. Then we have a flat style, which is more or less dark and everything completely flat, all the controls. Then we have the white style, which is a little bit rounded and a bright optic of all the elements. And for my presentation, I have a small presentation style, which is based on the flat one with the extension of some fonts and colors. If you need, you can start the according editor from this flash button here. And to use the visualization style, this is just offered by the properties window. So when we select an element, then the colors, for example, that can be used here are those that are defined in the visualization style. And the same, of course, for the fonts. We have here the selection and preview of the fonts that are defined in the style. So then we can go on to the next slide. And after having the look at these basic parts of the CODESYS visualization, we can look at some advantages of using the CODESYS visualization. So a big advantage is the possibility to use both the PLC application and the according HMI, the visualization, in a single project. So the logic and the variables are directly linked, and therefore it's not necessary to exchange variable or tag lists between the PLC program and the visualization tool. Then another advantage are the flexible display options. So we can provide a visualization for web-based devices, starting from small devices like smartphones up to desktop computers. And the target visualization itself is also very scalable. So we can start from embedded PLCs up to PC-based soft PLCs. And the visualization is multi-client aware. So it's possible that several clients connect simultaneously to the visualization and display the same content or different content each client. So in the next step, after looking at these essential terms of the visualization, we can have a look at some basic projects. And there I will start building a visualization from scratch to show how easy it's to use our visualization tool. So in this first visualization, we will insert, I can show you the configuration of the different display variants, and then I can show you how easy it's to insert visualization elements and to configure them and link them to variables of the PLC. To show this, I switch to the programming system again, and as I want to show you a visualization project from scratch, I just have a very basic PLC application which just does some counting and filling an array, and we can use these values to display them in the visualization. So the first step to do is insert the first visualization object, give it a name, and for this basic example, we can just keep the prepared name visualization. Now some magic is happening in the background. Libraries are inserted that are necessary for executing the visualization, and the visualization manager will be created automatically with the according settings that come from the device description that is currently used. So now we have a visualization with an empty canvas, and we have two objects because both display variants are supported by our soft PLC, the web visualization and the target visualization. And the settings here are rather simple. So the web visualization mainly selects the object, the visualization that is the start screen, and it configures the name of the HTML file that will be provided by our web server. To display first data in the visualization, we can of course start adding some elements to the screen. So we can insert a basic rectangle. We can switch the display of the rectangle to be a rounded one, and then we can put the first variable to this rectangle. And as usual in computer science, we just tell it hello world, and we want to display a value in this first rectangle, so we can add a placeholder, which is more or less the printf syntax known from C-based programming, which can be used here to format values into strings. So I just want to use the default format, and then we need to connect this rectangle to a value from the PLC. And for accessing globally reachable variables, it's easy. You can just select the variable in the program and drag it to the rectangle. And just drag it to the rectangle. Oh, this looks like a live programming issue. I try to use the ordinary rectangle again. And now it's possible to connect this value. When we look what happened, then we see that the variable is connected as the text variable, and so that's everything to display the first value in the visualization. Of course, we want to control our simple project, and then we can use the checkbox to start and stop the run of the application. And to do this, I can just take my run value and also connect it to the checkbox, and then you see it's automatically inserted here. And finally, we can use some more complex element like the table, which is located here, and the table is able to display an array, so it can be an array of a structure, for example, or a two-dimensional array. And in my application here, I can use a two-dimensional array. So when you enter variables in the properties window, you have this coding completion support. And so I can select my two-dimensional array. And then I have my first application together with a visualization that we can try to run. For executing it, I need a runtime system, which I just use the local soft PLC. And then we can start downloading this application. So I connect to my local soft PLC, enter the necessary login credentials, and then I can do the download of the application together with the visualization we created so far, and then we can have a look how it is presented in the online mode. Now the download is completed, and then when I press the run operation, then the target visualization will open. So a full screen visualization will open, which is the target visualization of the soft PLC. And here we see these values. We have the 0 for this counter, and if I hit the checkbox, then the counter will run, and the table will fill as it is programmed in the main program. And of course, we can have a look at the same visualization using the web browser by just accessing the embedded web server in the soft PLC. And so I have the same visualization, and of course I can operate it from here too. And we see this basic counter and the same table, just differently scaled, but this can be controlled in the web visualization object. So this was the very first basic visualization created from scratch, just to show how easy it is to create such a visualization project or extend an existing project by a visualization. In the next part of the demonstration, I want to have a look at some common patterns that occur in visualization projects. So the first pattern is structuring the visualization. As I quickly mentioned at the beginning, it's possible to use visualization as templates, just to reuse them several times. And as an extension to these very basic templates, it's possible to have an interface at a visualization template to pass different variables to different instances of the visualization. We will see this. And to instantiate these templates, there is the frame element in the visualization, and we can have a look at this too. And for this, we go back to our first demonstration project where I already prepared such visualizations. Here we see this main screen, and we have a reusable template here for this status tile that can be embedded here into the header of this visualization, which is just a simple visualization containing these few elements, and then it can be embedded into the main visualization using the frame element here. And of course, the same status tile can be embedded into a small visualization, which is intended for small smartphones. And there I have an example here. We have a similar screen and embedding the same element than the big desktop visualization. This is an example for a visualization template without interface. And of course, the more important one are templates that use this possibility to pass values to the instantiated visualizations. So here we have a simple tank consisting of a background and a simple bar displaying the value of this tank. And to be able to instantiate this tank multiple times, we need to pass some values. So we have the current value, we have the minimum range and the maximum range of the value, and we can provide the color. And I already have prepared some instances here in this tanks visualization. So here we have one tank that displays the Hugo value in a range from 0 to 100 using a color value which is at the moment to be configured numerically, but we will see the better one, a better configuration possibility soon. And here we have a similar one displaying another variable in a different range and using a different color. And the idea behind this is that we have a possibility to structure visualizations in order to have reusable tiles that can be arranged flexibly in the visualization screen. And it prevents the need for doing copy-paste operations on such elements, because it's more performant to have these instantiated using the frame element. And when we have a look at this in online mode, I can download this application too after logging out from my simple project. And then we can see these different instances. So now I have only the web visualization, and here in this online preview, we already see the different tanks. We have two with the same value and a different one with a red color and a different value range. So that's the important feature of structuring the visualization. The next common pattern, which is important, of course, for all visualizations, is the topic of the navigation. Of course, it's necessary to navigate through different pages, and there the CODESYS visualization provides different possibilities. So of course, it's possible to change the entire screen using a switch of the visualization. Then we have this frame element we already have seen for embedding templates into the visualization, but such a frame can also reference several templates, and therefore it's possible to switch through these frames. Then we have a tab control element, which is a combination of some controls together with these switchable frames. Then, of course, it's possible to for the application to control the navigation, and it's possible to use dialogues for structuring and navigating through the visualization. And of course, we can also have a look at this in the sample project. And I have prepared a simple button here in my main screen just to show the different options and how these can be configured. So I link my navigation operation to the mouse click event. And here we see a list of actions that can happen on this click. And the first action that I mentioned was changing the visualization. And therefore, it's possible to select Change Shown Visualization. And then you can select one of all the top-level visualizations that should be, this is not a good example, that should be the destination of this button click. And of course, it's possible to switch forth and back too. Then, as I mentioned, it's possible to have frames that can be switched. And so we have an action for switching the visualization. And here in my main screen, I have this content area, which is realized using a frame. And this frame references 3 visualizations. And by simply selecting it here, I can configure the button to switch to this visualization. And then we have the tab control element we can have a look at. It's instantiated on a different visualization. So it's an ordinary tab control referencing also 3 visualizations. And you can give a heading and an image to have a very easy navigation. And then we can have a look at the application controlled navigation, which is prepared in this main program here. So the most basic way of navigating in an application controlled way is by using a global variable that is provided by the visualization. And when you use this feature for navigating, then this must be activated in the visualization manager, because the effect of having a single global variable containing the current visualization is that all clients are synchronized. And if this is not the intention to synchronize all clients, then it's possible to use a simple function block provided by a utility library of the visualization, which is able to change the visualization of the target visu in this example only. It's can be used in a flexible way, so it's possible to switch all clients separately to separate visualization. So this is the way the navigation can be configured. And then in the next step, we can have a look at a more complex demonstration project called Visu Demo Overlay, which is so far delivered just as part of a CODESYS installation. And in the future, it is planned to provide this using the CODESYS Forge, so that everybody can have a simple look at this project. And I can switch to this project, and then we can have a look at some features therein. Again, I do the download of this application to my local soft PLC, and then we can watch the visualization in the web browser. So the application is running, and I can switch to my web browser, and the screen was automatically changed to this demonstration project. We see some graphs here. We see the trend element showing historic elements. We see the XY chart displaying arbitrary graphs, and we see an embedded video screen, which could also come from a camera. And one of the new features we are able to provide since a few versions is that we can overlay elements over other elements. So it's possible to take this tile and move it over the video screen. And it's also possible to have smooth animation. So when I exchange two of these tiles, then they move in a smooth way over each other. You can see these smooth movements here, and the same smooth movements are used when we switch the visualization to a different screen. So it's possible to have a nice looking exchange of the visualization screens. When I go back to this main page, I can open a dialog by clicking on this informational button, and you see it can also be smoothly inserted onto the screen and moving out of it. So a powerful and well-looking feature of the visualization, and it's easy to configure the according screen and the according animations. And of course, we have already seen it's possible to embed a web browser control into the visualization, which is here done using the information about the CODESYS visualization embedded as a PDF document using a web browser into the WebVisu application. So this is a very quick overview over the features of the CODESYS web visualization based on this example. If you are interested in, you can just download the project or open the project from your CODESYS installation and have a more detailed look at the features that are provided there. So that's the information I want to give you about the basic projects that can be created and how it can look in a bigger HMI project. And the next topic today is some news about the visualization, some recently implemented features we can have a look at. And the first feature is a very important one, which was released in the last two versions, which we call the overlay functionality. You have already seen in this demonstration project. It's possible to provide smooth animations. It's possible to overlay visualization elements over other elements like browser or camera images. And starting with the upcoming release in the next days, the version 4.1 of the CODESYS visualization, it will also be possible to move dialogues around the screen. And in the demonstration project, I can show you how easy it's to configure these animations we have seen. So when we select the visualization, for example, the main one, having these tiles you have seen before, then you see the animation, which is configured just by assigning a coordinate for the X and the Y value. And then every change of these values will be executed in the time that is configured here as an animation duration. So when the application decides that this tile should be displayed on the right-hand side, then it will move to there in the time provided by this value, maybe a second, in a smooth way, which is then realized by the web browser. That's how easy it is to configure according animations. Another recently implemented feature also in the upcoming release is the touch handling in the trend control. So far it was only possible to navigate there using the mouse, but starting with the upcoming release, it's usable using touchscreens as users expected today. So it's of course possible to pan into the history of the trend control. It's possible to zoom using a spread pinch gesture in the trend control, and to control the way the trend reacts to touches. There is a kind of wizard in the visualization editor that inserts the control elements to make it easy to decide what should happen on a pen gesture, to display the cursor or to display the history accordingly. So these are some important features that will come in the next version, which will be released in the next days. And towards the end of my presentation, I want to give an outlook to some features we are currently which are currently under development. So the first one is an improved configuration of the frames, which we see as a very important element in our tool. And the second one is embedding HTML5 based elements into the web visualization. So the first feature I want to talk about is the improved frame configuration. When looking at my presentation, you have seen that the frames, or that it was necessary to pass a numeric value to the tank element to give it a according color. And of course, this is not very user-friendly. It's better to have a way to directly configure the color value. And of course, the same if you want to pass a font to a visualization. And our final goal is that it's as comfortable to use visualization templates than to using visualization elements. And we can have a look at this in the last demonstration project, which is similar than the one we have seen before. But here I use already the new feature. So when we have this tank configuration, we see we have a simpler textual interface here, and there is a new tab for this frame configuration where we can give a structured configuration of this template. So we have a section for the look and feel, consisting here of the color of the bar, which lands in accordingly declared variable. And it's possible to give a description of this value, which comes from a text list, to be able to localize it. And then we have the online values, the value itself, and the minimum and maximum value, which also are located into these variables. And the tank control here is in fact the same that we have seen before. And when we instantiate this tank in this visualization here, we can have a look at the configuration, and then we see this structured way of configuring here. So we have the look and feel as described before, we have the values, and we have the color as a selectable color here in the usual color editor, and not as a numeric value as we have seen it before. And there is the description of this value. So it's becoming better how these frames can be configured. And our final goal is to prevent the need for having these hierarchical nodes we see here. And finally, we want to reach a look like this, so that the properties of the template element look the same than those of the basic elements. And this is an important feature in our plan to make it more easy and more common to reuse visualizations using this frame and template mechanism. And the planned release for this feature is the next version 4.2 in the next year. And the last feature I want to show you are the HTML5 elements, which we want to provide an extension possibility for embedding JavaScript-based elements into the web visualization. Of course, some kind of adjustment is necessary to being able to use such an element in the CODESYS visualization, but in our opinion, this is not a difficult task for a developer with web control experience. Of course, these HTML5 elements should be configured like the native visualization elements that are available so far. And of course, these elements can benefit from browser features and from already available controls that can be used in a web browser environment. And my demonstration project can already show these elements. The configuration itself is not yet finished, but we can have a look at this project too. So here we have a table which simply gets an entire array as parameter, and the contents of this array will be sent to the table. And then we can also download this kind of application and have a look at it in the web browser. And there we can see the features that we use using these elements directly from the web browser. So the download is done, and we can switch back to the web visualization. And here we have this example project again with these frames we have already seen. And the final page are these HTML5 controls. So on the top right, we have a simple button that reacts to hovering the mouse. So when I move the mouse onto this control, we see this hovering effect here, which is executed by the web browser. Then on the left-hand side here, we have embedded a combo box control, which is just the selection box of the web browser itself, which can be used to display and, of course, change values. So when I switch to red, then this normal textual rectangle element will, of course, change the color accordingly. And the final element is a simple HTML5 or HTML-based table. We can see here it displays the same values than the CODESYS table, and it also uses some browser effects. So when I hover over a cell, we see that it flickers a bit, which is also done by the web browser. And of course, when I change a value in the CODESYS table, it will apply to the HTML5 table immediately, and we see the according update here too. And those HTML5 based elements are embedded just like the usual CODESYS elements, so it's possible to hide them and to animate them. So when I press this hide button here, we see also an effect, an animation effect. They simply rotate out and fade out, and this is possible for the CODESYS based table as well as for these HTML5 based elements. So our plan is to embed these elements just like the usual ones, and to provide an even more flexible way of configuration and operation for the final customer of the CODESYS web visualization. Again, here for this feature, the planned release is the version 4.2 in the next year.